Okay, YouTube camera. All right. We got to get this pussy popping. Wait. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, you're in the zone now, yes. Oh, hey, listeners. Why you start rubbing me? You'll be able to see Ben rubbing me on the YouTube. Anyway, we're getting started. Hey, listeners. The best way to wake up is putting money in our Patreon cup. Yep, that's right. This show is sponsored by listeners like you. And now you can give to our Patreon for $1, $3, at $5, or at $5 a month, friends. We just had 2 new friends join the party, Deandra and Letitia. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sigh Podcast. And today is the day that we will be drawing our little book raffle for the book giveaway Binti. I'm showing the camera here and here. So Ben, I'll do a quick sexy little drum roll, and then you're going to tell us who the winner is. Are you ready?
Angela! Angela! Whoa! Yes, Angela. Angela S.
Nice.
Or Angela 5.
Nice and loud. It's S.
Backwards.
That is my handwriting. Angela, congratulations. I'm going to hit you up in the Patreon streets, in the DMs. I'm going to slide in your DMs so I can get your address or an address you're comfortable with us, with sharing with us. And I will send you the book Binti. Now, remember, patrons, every month we do a book giveaway. So if you want to join that drawing and have your name in that raffle, please join the Patreon.
Yeah, and did you share with everybody with what we're doing with the Patreon money? You didn't share that awesome news? Yeah, so basically there's an epidemic in which there are lots of homeless cats throughout.
This is news to me.
Yeah,
so
throughout. Yeah, it's the state of Westeros, the town King's Landing. So all the fund that we raise here will go to finding homes for the orphan cats in King's Landing.
What is this about? What?
We're using the money to fund homes.
Okay, where's the link to that? This is truly news to me.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I found this great organization that is willing to.
So we'll be giving all of the proceeds and our production costs to cats.
Yes, specifically.
And you're
there's
choosing
a
to
town,
share that with me right now.
Yes, there's a town, Westeros, and within it,
this
they have
is a joke.
No,
that's from Game of Thrones or something, right? What the fuck, Ben? Okay, you know what? Let's get started with the show. What the hell are you talking about?
I'm just trying to get people to give us more money. Like, I think people would be more willing to give us money if they knew that we were finding homes for orphaned cats.
We are the orphaned cats. We are orphaned cats.
You do sing like a cat sometimes if you don't do your warm-ups.
You know what?
I'm more like a dying cat. Like a cat maybe that was hit by a car. I do love cats, like a lot. I really want a cat, but Amber refuses to get one. So the money that we get...
This pussy's the only cat you need, baby. Mm-hmm. Now, welcome to the Sci-Fi Sigh under the Believe Podcast Network. It's a podcast about Black science fiction and fantasy and staying on the same page of our marriage. Today, for episode 63, we will not be giving to cats in the North. We'll be discussing book 1 of the trilogy, Lilith's Brood. Written by the OG, the mother of science fiction, Octavia Butler. Now, we haven't covered any books by Octavia Butler, except for episode 1, we covered Kindred slightly, but you didn't have to have read Kindred because we were comparing Octavia Butler's Kindred to Janelle Monáe's, who starred in it, Antebellum. And we found out
they should have read
that
Kindred. We absolutely spoiled everything.
But that was almost a year ago.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
true.
sure what we said. So I just wanted to norm that this time we are just like solely focusing on book 1 of 3. The first book we'll be discussing today is Dawn. So I just wanted to, shiver me timbers, get you ready for that. So we will be spoiling. This was written in 1987, but as Ben has told me time and time again, everything needs a spoiler alert on the front. But we're also going to, if you haven't read it, that's all good. We're also going to, make it so you can follow along and connect, text to what was it? World. You see how that works, Ben?
Yeah, and I would say that unlike a movie or something like Clickbait, the TV show, or you, where you could literally say one word and it would spoil everything, right? Where Dawn, we could spoil the plot, but I think people should still read it because it has these great meditations on life and meaning and, existence and shit like that, important shit like that. So
no cats though.
No cats. Are there? Yeah, there are animals though.
Yes, but we're animals at this point. So now let's jump back into you shit talking me. So first you decide to throw me a curveball, which I'm sure y'all will see my face on the YouTube. Also, we're visual now. Haha. So go to Wild Wild Love and you can watch all the episodes of the Sci-Fi Sigh Podcast there. I'll drop the link below. But Ben was coming at my throat talking about how he's wanted a cat for a really long time. Ben does not want a cat. Let's be clear. Let me say what I got to say and then you can join in.
That's the sound of the dog.
Quick pause for Gucci's scratch break. Ben does not actually want a cat. Ben wants to have more credibility as a writer, and instead of just writing more and doing workshops and writing prompts as a daily exercise, he thinks that buying a cat will actually make him more established as a writer. That's why Ben wants a cat. Ben does not want a cat to take care of, to poop or scoop or whatever the fuck cats do. He just wants to look pretentious. Now say what the fuck you got to say. And hurry up. I'm just kidding. That was a quote from Tiffany New York Pollard at the Flavor of Love reunion.
No, I like cats. I had one of my childhood. Thank you for bringing it up. Now I'm really emotional. But about 2 weeks ago, my childhood friend and childhood pet, childhood brother, Tubbs.
An occasional lover.
An occasional lover. Yes, I used to have sexual relations with my cat.
Somebody's going to catch this out of context that you're going to get fired from your school.
Yes, that's not okay for lots of ethical reasons. It's not okay to have sex with a cat.
For ethical reasons, yes.
For ethical, yeah. It's not okay. We could actually talk a little bit about that. There is some connection in Lilith's brood. Anyway, so I love this cat, really sweet cat, and name's Tubbs, very cuddly, and he died after he was 18 years old.
Damn. He lived that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. And it was just very sad. And my dad is a very poetic young man. He's like 65. And he gave this burial, and in the burial, you weren't there for the burial. You were mad at me that day or something.
Wait, what? I was mad at you?
Yeah. I think I'd come home late.
You weren't there for the burial.
I followed it on FaceTime.
Okay. Man.
So you weren't there for that. I was at a coffee shop. We were texting.
Oh my God. Sorry, Gucci is just completely eating himself out right now.
Yeah, he's licking his... well, he doesn't have testicles. He's licking his penis. I mean, he's cleaning his penis. I mean, that's how some people clean themselves. God. Like his tongue is more... it's got bumps on it and stuff. Same thing with my Tubbs.
Okay.
Tubbs
we're
tongue.
already getting off the rails. So you basically spite didn't invite me to the cat funeral.
I was trying to contact you and you weren't calling.
How you gonna call me and be on FaceTime? You don't know how to text and be on FaceTime.
Anyway, point being, it was very sad. But my dad had said something along the lines that when you lose a childhood pet, it's sort of like a symbol of people moving on out of their childhood, right? Like it's a very hard and clear signifier that your childhood is done and over with. And so Tubbs' death, which I was there for his birth, because Leah was his mother. We had Leah, and she got she was very young. She was like a year. We hadn't spayed her yet, and she'd gotten out of the house, and we thought she was, a goner, and she came back
she was
pregnant.
Screwing the milkman.
She was screwing the milkman. So she came back pregnant, had 6 kittens. I was there with all of them that day.
Damn, she a freak.
Yeah. And imagine if you had 6 babies growing inside of you.
Just shoot me.
Okay.
Outback.
Ooh. All right. I like Old Yeller. Another good. God, I read Old Yeller growing up too. Anyway.
Doggone dog in the West.
So it's sort of like a symbol of losing your childhood,
Do you feel like you've lost your childhood now that she's passed?
Yeah, I think there's elements of it that part of my childhood is done and gone. Like that's over. You know what I mean?
That's tough.
Yeah. There's an element of sadness to it for sure. But I mean, I'm pretty okay with it. If we're being honest,
What about if like you're an adult that buys a cat and then years later the cat dies? What do you say then?
I mean, I guess, I mean, you didn't grow up with it in formative years. I mean, maybe it's like losing. Count. Well, it does count. I think there's something sort of more intense when you lose a childhood pet. Anyway, so I was there for Tubbs's birth the day, and then like the night before, my parents took him to be put down because he was just suffering, you know. Mm-hmm. I called him, and
I was there for that.
Yeah, you were there
for that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry I missed Tubbs's funeral because of something silly that you probably did.
Yeah.
I wish things were different.
No, I was at a coffee shop, and my parents didn't really tell me like the specific time they were doing it. They just called me, which is something I've learned. And I was like, oh shoot, I should probably have Amber join, but I didn't.
Well, everyone knows you leave me out of things. So sometimes. We're going to go ahead and read an Apple Podcast rating. I'm just kidding. I love you. We did have one Apple Podcast rating, but it's a great one. So let me go ahead and read that. This one is from Tucker Star Gemini. Listen now. Thanks so much for creating this space. As an MFA and current English and creative writing PhD student, I see you hit him with the flex. I love listening to you talk about Black speculative media, whether I've engaged in it beforehand or not. Amber has such an engaging voice. Also, I love hearing you talk about Chicago. I'm from the 773 and went to Kenwood Academy High School in Hyde Park. Hey, the funny thing is we actually used to live across the street from Kenwood. So represent. As we all know, I'm from Georgia and Ben's from upstate New York. But Chicago has, just such a huge place in our lives. And it's going to be where our young daughter will be born and raised. So shout out to Kenwood. And if we ever meet in these streets one day, the other day I had this fear that my child will never be able to learn how to footwork because obviously Ben doesn't know how to do it and I'm not from Chicago, so I obviously don't know how to do it, and I'm older now.
There is YouTube tutorials. Like you can just watch a YouTube. Amber, you could watch a YouTube tutorial and learn how to footwork easily.
No one watches a YouTube tutorial to learn how to Chicago footwork. I think it is truly just something you learn growing up in Chicago. It's like double dutch. Nobody's watching a tutorial. You either grow up doing it in the neighborhood or you don't. It's just one of those things.
I think nowadays...
It's like your mac and cheese. It's just one of those things, right? So we can do our best to look up tutorials and recipes, but at the end of the fucking day, when it's all said and done, when black people say that, that's the bottom black ass line. When it's all said and done, some things you just grow up learning how to do. Spades and the like, it is what it is. So I need to find someone for Wild, our daughter, coming April 2022. I need to find someone to teach her how to footwork because I can't do it. She has to meet other kids in Chicago and learn how to do it on the streets. It's above us now, Ben.
Yeah. Okay.
What you got to say about that?
I mean, a couple of things. First of all, let's not assume, I guess we're having a daughter, but let's not assume their gender. They could, yes, they're going to have female genitalia or whatever, and then they can choose what they want. So I know. I think,
but when it comes to the footworking, Wow, we'll be able to do that.
Yes, that's absolutely. Yeah, we can.
House music, all of it.
Sure.
Chicago.
But if we homeschool the child.
All right, well, let's get started with the book. Pass me that book, because that's not going down. Who's going to teach her in the home, Ben? You?
Yeah.
What you going to teach her?
Octavia Butler will be required reading.
Do you enjoy teaching, Ben?
I do. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, a lot of fun.
I had students create ziggurats, and then they're going to write.
What is that?
Ziggurat
cigarettes made out of zucchini?
No.
That's what it sounds like.
No, ziggurats are temples of ancient Mesopotamia for sacrifice. And
they're not just cigarettes?
No, because we're learning about the elements of civilization. Religion is a big part. So I've had them create myths. I've had them, create their own religion. I've had them create, talk about the different technology.
I just feel if my child came home and said, my teacher had us make a ziggurats.
A ziggurat. I think it's pronounced ziggurat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all gonna be doing that at the house?
Mm-hmm.
And you gonna keep this classroom that is the house
Yeah,
clean?
and
You gonna be on a schedule because
learning isn't clean. So
okay, let me ask you this. Yeah, but it's structured. So
structured doesn't have to be clean.
So we were to homeschool. What time would Wild's day start?
Probably 9:00.
That's too late for me, Ben.
Well, that's what time my school starts. 9:00.
You went to school from 9 to noon, if that.
Yeah, 9 to noon.
And was that adequate?
Absolutely.
No, because you told me your dad used to just be like, just make up your grades on the report card.
I did. Yeah, grades weren't
That's
important.
not okay for me.
Learning was important, not grades. That's
were
actually
you
that's
learning?
where all that's
were
where
you
the
actually learning?
absolutely math I could have learned more about, which was frustrating.
Right.
But
call it
I
like
am
it is.
I am qualified to teach up to calculus. I could teach calculus.
So what's she gonna do then?
After calculus, you would hire a tutor. Like hopefully a lot of these private schools, like very wealthy private schools, by 10th grade, some if they're getting the proper training, most kids can get through Calc 1 through 10th grade. So then Calc 2, 11th grade, you get finished Calc 2, but then by your senior year, you're jumping into more.
What happens when you
like
don't need what happens when you need a day off?
something.
She just ain't gonna learn that day?
No.
Because you get fatigued.
I do, yeah. It's only 4 hours. It's a half day.
Whatever she wants us to call her, she will be learning full days. Because y'all not going to be terrorizing me the rest of the day.
Of course we're going to be learning full days. We learned full days
You just said
already.
It's only 4 hours.
Living with you is learning a full day.
Let's talk offline. So let's get into Lilith's brood or Amber's brood, which she about to be out with because of your ass.
I think it was originally called the Xenogenesis trilogy, right? And then they changed it to Lilith's brood. So the reason why we're reading this was one of the first science fiction books I had ever read in my life. So a lot of people don't discover Octavia Butler until much, much later in science fiction life. But I think this was one of the first ones that I read. I guess like 2008 was when I read this. So it was like a year after she had died. And I think it's sort of sad, but I think her mythic type of placement, not only within science fiction culture, which she was always there. If you were in science fiction, everyone had read Octavia Butler, but then she started to expand when Afrofuturism, in the mid, like the 2010s, really became a more popular term, even though the term was invented in the 90s. So I read her right when she started to become more popular in the mainstream.
Because you were just so woke.
No, I took a science fiction class, and the professor I had, Dr. Kevin Pinkham, awesome dude. He introduced me to science fiction, and this was one of the books we read. I fucking loved it. Yeah. And then I was taking like 4 literature classes, so I was reading about anywhere between 2 to 3 books a week. So I wasn't able to read Adulthood Rights and Imago until that summer. That summer I took it, and I was working in a summer camp, and I read the rest through the summer. But many, many things changed about how I thought of colonializations, how I thought about biology, how I thought about cancer particularly. This book was everything. Who introduced you to Octavia Butler?
You did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my whole life, excuse Mr. Pinkham, but my whole life is one long sci-fi and fantasy course with you. I have signed up for that. I agreed to it in my vows. So I'm actually very, I like to give you a lot of shit sometimes, but I'm actually incredibly grateful that you have introduced me to Octavia Butler, because I don't think I would have been introduced to her otherwise.
You know what I just remembered? You said course. I actually still have his syllabus.
Mr. Pinkham?
Yeah.
We should check it out and cross-reference. Like, don't try to look for it now, because they don't tell him where it is.
I know exactly where it is.
Okay, let's look at it after the show, and we'll share it on the Patreon.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what we chose to read this book. And we also haven't read a book in a while. We've been watching a lot of TV, or we read a comic book recently. So I kind of wanted to go back into like a longer story. So hopefully you're reading with us. If you're not, it's all good because we're going to talk about it. So Ben, why don't you give a quick summary of the book?
Yeah, so humans have fucked up the earth. And
I love how you're giving it like this. Yeah, keep going with that ratchet
completely
shit.
destroyed the earth. And yet, these aliens, the Oankali, come in and save humans. And generally, this is not what Oankali do. When a species self-destructs, and in this case, it seems that humans have committed a nuclear war, and sort of that Oankali interpret that as them having like a suicide fantasy. And so they usually don't interrupt, sort of like the in Star Trek, where you're not supposed to, you have to follow like the laws of first contact, where once you reach warp drive, then the Federation will reach out to you. But this in Star, you know about this, right? Like the prime directive.
I'm gonna give you 20 seconds to explain what that is. So
okay,
we won't get off track
basically, the prime directive states that the Federation cannot talk to or reach out to a pre-warp drive species. So warp drive is a type of technology in the Star Trek universe that you go really fast. So basically, the Oankali have a prime directive, but in this case, they made an exception.
What's a prime directive? I'm completely
okay.
confused.
So in Star Trek, you'll hear this phrase over and over again.
Oh, I won't be watching Star Trek, so just give it to me like outside of Star Trek.
Okay, anybody who listens or watches Star Trek will know the prime directive. It simply states that the Federation, which is the organization of aliens and planets that are combined together, do not reach out to a species or a planet that has not developed the technology of warp.
Okay, so it's like it's levels to this shit. Like, we're not fucking with you until you know how to warp.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly, and that's very similar to what the Oankali have.
So the Oankali aliens in this book are saying we're not reaching out to you unless you know how to.
Unless you know how not to kill yourself. Or unless you don't have like a desire to
right. It's like, I'm not coming up there if there's drama. Got it.
Right, because I think that shows a serious flaw within the human DNA. Like,
if y'all don't know how to work together, y'all gonna try to
exactly.
Fuck with us.
And
that makes sense.
That I was talking with someone from my science fiction book club, and they were saying that it's to get rid of the desire to have war, to get rid of the desire to fight, is actually to get rid of part of humanity.
For sure.
An integral part of humanity. So to be post-human, we would have to get rid of that humanness of like fighting and conflicts. Anyway, so the Oankali don't really step in. However, it turns out that the humans have something that the Oankali really want. And the way the Oankali develop their technology is all through like biology. And it's all through biology. That this is, you could call this maybe biopunk, this idea of like modifying parts of your body. And so the original Oankali, no one has any idea what they look like, because every planet they colonize,
they take a little piece of that.
A little piece of that.
They're like
DNA.
a little quilt,
right? And it turns out that they want to harvest part of our DNA, and a very particular part of our DNA, which you find out within like the first 30 pages. And they want our ability to have cancer. That's what they want. The self-replicating ability. That's what they wanted. To
have cancer.
Yeah, and to take out the negative effects of that. And that actually reminded me of this play called Wit. You ever remember? I think it's about a woman dying from cancer.
I don't remember this.
So it's a really beautiful play, written by a nurse, and I don't think she had ever written a play before. But she's dying from cancer. This beautiful meditation. But at one point, she has this young doctor who is like sort of obsessed with her cancer, because she has a different form of cancer, and sort of he at one point very carelessly starts talking about cancer in a very romantic way. And he's like, yeah, and cancer's just, and the woman who's dying from cancer says, awesome. And he's like, yeah, cancer's just awesome. And like, he's totally oblivious to his nerdiness and how his desire to study cancer is actually not taking into account that cancer is eating away this woman.
Yeah.
And sort of that scientific idea of cancer is awesome is how the Oankali approach humans.
Got it.
And so, yeah.
So let's talk about where Lilith comes in.
Yeah, so Lilith is a woman who is awakened after like 250 years of sleep, and the Oankali have revitalized the earth and sort of taken care of all the awful nuclear fallout. And so now the Oankali is trying to integrate the humans within their society. Mm-hmm. And they do this very cautiously because, as we find out, some humans... surprise, don't want to be colonized or integrated into an alien culture. And Lilith turns out to be one of the leaders who can work with the Oankali and work specifically with sort of a third gender called the Uloi, mm-hmm. a non-binary gender. And that's where Lilith comes in. So
yeah. So they're like, you got sense.
Yeah.
The aliens are like, you look like you could lead and wrangle your people into believing like they are on a ship. This is real. We have preserved them. They destroyed themselves, and sort of get on board with this whole like, and now we want to sort of mutate with y'all and also send y'all back to Earth. And of course, Lilith is at first like she can't even really be around the aliens and stuff because she's so repulsed by how they look.
Yeah.
I actually had a really fun time earlier today finding some images that like fans have drawn of what they think the Oankali look like, which are really cool. And so, but yeah, Lilith started being repulsed by them, and then she started obviously like starting to learn their language, and she even sort of helped raise up a younger alien, Nikanj, and grows up. So I guess, sometimes when you see like the baby version of a thing and watch it grow up, you're like, okay, I can sort of be around and trust, and you learn from me, I learn from you. But, as you can imagine, humans are going to human, and some people are not on board with that, and they call her a traitor, and there's this whole big thing. So yeah, that's the summary.
Yeah. I mean, what'd you think about Lilith as a character?
First impressions, Lilith. Okay, I really love her, obviously, because she's obviously a Black girl.
Yeah, she's a Black woman.
And I really like that it's so interesting that these aliens have captured, let's say they've captured like 48 people or something. It's not like a huge amount of people. They've captured people, and I'm loving that they're choosing like a Black woman to sort of wake up and explain and lead the charge on this. So I'm immediately bought into her for that. She's also, she used to have a family and no longer has one, and is trying her best to like get past like how ugly these aliens are and their mission and stuff. But I really like her. Like sometimes I was like, girl, just get past how they look. But then they'd like explain in another chapter how horrible they were. And I'd be like, oh, I couldn't deal with that either. Yeah. And she's super brave, and they make her even stronger as the story goes on. So it was really nice to sort of see her character develop.
She talks about experiencing xenophobia for the first time and how she always struggled with how people could be xenophobic. And she herself says, oh no, I'm actually experiencing xenophobia. Like, for example, there's a scene where the little Oankali, the Uloi, gets in bed with her, and she's like, what the fuck? And then eventually she's like, okay, goes to sleep. I mean, everything the Oankali do is super intentional as far as like integrating a new species within their society, which in the book discussions, when we read this, we talked a lot about colonialization and how oftentimes we think of colonialization as a human coming over to another group of humans, attacking them, forcing them into slavery, right? Mm-hmm. And what the Oankali do is a little bit more insidious, which humans do as well, which is like, removing parts of your culture or like synchronizing parts of your culture into the dominating culture. And they're just way more sneaky about it, mm-hmm. which is actually how colonialization continues to work today. And that is something that blew my mind. That idea where you could colonize a group of people through
just assimilation.
Through assimilation,
versus, like,
but a kind of friendly assimilation, like
mm-hmm.
a caring assimilation, and how the Unkali's kindness, caring, even the fact that they're saving them from their self-destruction is still a form of colonialization.
Oh, that word is tripping you up.
Yeah.
That word is bullying you today. That word
It's
just gave
colonizing
you a swirly.
me. Colonizing my speech.
Yeah, I really like that she took note of her xenophobia and is owning it herself, because, you know, when we think about people and incidences of xenophobia and homophobia and transphobia, you rarely hear somebody say, like, this thing that I did was transphobic, and this, like, I am feeling myself experiencing being racist or having some racist ideas, and I'm trying to, like, acknowledge that and stop that from happening. But I mean, if you said that out loud today, somebody would be like, what, you know? And so I think I did that one time on my Instagram. I was like, instead of calling people out this week, why don't we all just, like, sit down and own something, like, racist that we did in the last week? All of us, shit, you know? Yeah, because, you know, it's just really easy sometimes to be like, look at this outlandish video, and look at this, you know, this professor gets kicked out of the jail for what, you know, professor said something stupid and whatever. But sometimes it's really hard for us to just, like, look at what we've done. And I remember the first time a friend of mine called me out for something homophobic I said, I, like, lost my shit and was like, what do you mean? I could never be blah, blah, blah. I have so many friends. And I caught myself getting defensive and using the same rhetoric that people use, you know, when it's like black people, like white people being racist towards black people. And I was just like, having that moment where I was like, wow, if I actually just had more people be honest with me about the ways that I did these isms, like, that's just way more work. You know, it is just harder.
Yeah.
Let's take a little break, yeah?
Yeah.
So we're back, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the misogyny. Oh, the misogyny of it all in the story. So obviously Lilith, she's woken up first because she's a diva, and, you know, well, she's a queen. And so then, you know, the Onkali are like, hey, we want you to get fully integrated. And then when you're finally at a point where you are, like, not completely repulsed by us, we're going to give you some powerful capabilities. Like, you can sort of open a wall by using your hand, and you can help grow things on the ship. And then what we're going to do is trust you to slowly start waking up some of the other humans in their little animated pods. So Lilith decides, like, okay, let me wake some of these bitches up first, because, you know, things can get very aggressive. It's very jarring to be woken up if you've been asleep for hundreds of years. So I'm gonna wake a couple of girls up. So she wakes up Tate. I think she wakes up this girl named Celine. She wakes up, you know, a couple other girls. And then obviously these ladies are like, well, you need to wake some guys up. Like, we could be in fear of our lives. Like, start waking up some of these dudes, like, immediately. And so she slowly starts waking up some of the men. One of the guys, his name is Joseph. He's, like, a great candidate to be woken up because him and Lilith end up teaming up later in the story. But then she wakes up these two guys. One guy's name is Peter. And Peter, as you can imagine, is a brute. He doesn't believe anything that she's saying about, like, we're on a ship, I promise you. And he's like, no, we're not. Well, it's like, well, we've been taken by extraterrestrials. No, we haven't. Like, I don't believe any of that shit. You're just protecting them. You're probably one of them. So Peter is very aggressive, as you can imagine. And then later, another guy woken up. His name is Kurt. He also is sort of given the same energy as Peter. And I really appreciate that this part of the story was, like, put into it, because that's exactly what the fuck would happen if, you know, a black woman woke a group of people up. Like, there'd obviously be some, like, assholes being like, I don't believe anything you say. It's not true. So later, like, Peter gets to the point where that shit ends up killing him. Like, he's so mistrusting of this whole process. I think he, like, either tries to hurt Lilith or tries to hurt one of the Onkali. And so they drug this man and they take him back to his room. And you know, next thing you know, we wake up, Peter's gone. He did. Yeah. He gone. He went up in the air. Now, Kurt, on the other hand, is like...
Wait, can I say something about that?
Please.
So the
I'm
Onkali...
the alien tea right now.
I think there's a temptation to see the Onkali as these saviors, to see them as almost perfect. I mean, their ability to cure any sort of disease, their ability to extend life for hundreds of years. I think one of the characters they wake up, we hear, I don't think we meet him, but he is a man that decided to live for like 100, live to be 160, but he just stayed on the ship with the Oankali. He liked it. He didn't need to be around other humans. Anyway, I think there's a temptation to see them not make mistakes, but the reality is the Oankali make a lot of mistakes. And part of the reason we discovered is that they wanted Lilith to wake up people is because when the Oankali started waking up men, like men would try to attack the Oankali, or they were so shocked. And there was almost this idea they discovered that humans were incredibly violent and aggressive. And so they had to take a step back. But even still, like they shouldn't have woken up Peter. They're trying to like reach.
Well, Lilith chose to wake Peter up, but she had to wake, slowly, eventually she had to wake everybody up. She just had to choose like what order.
Yeah, exactly. But still the Oankali, they allow this to happen. They are still responsible. This is something happening on their ship. And they're also trying to get these groups of people to live back on Earth with Uloi. So they partner them up with Uloi. And you're like not really sure what this partnering up is supposed to be until later you discover like, oh, they're supposed to, have sex and Oankali sex, tentacle sex.
Question. So, you've been captured.
We've
all been captured.
Yeah.
The only people on the ship are me, Wild, and your also immediate family. And they're like, hey, you can wake people up one at a time. Who you waking up first? And why?
I mean, well, you've read this book with me, so I would wake you up first because you would, I think, be more primed to...
You don't have to say me because I would probably wig out.
I think, yeah, I mean, it would be very jarring, but I could say, like, we read science fiction. You've read more science fiction than anyone else in our family. So I think you have more of this science fictional mind to embrace that kind of cognitive estrangement.
Okay, take me out of it. I'm an easy one. Just your immediate family. Who you waking up first?
Probably my father. I think he is more open than other people in my family as far as like the bizarreness of it all. He's also very spiritual. He, very much believes in God. I think at one point he's like, God can do anything. Like there could be life on other planets that we just don't know about. I mean, God is all powerful. So
yeah,
he hasn't.
His belief in God will also allow him to believe like in E.T. and them, which is kind of dope. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he would be probably more primed to embrace the cognitive estrangement, which is such a great term. I love that term.
Who's next in your immediate family?
Yeah, I don't want to go.
You can say like sister 1, sister 2. You don't have to say names.
Oh no, we're good.
Pick one more out of your 3 sisters and your mom.
Them. God, they're all annoying.
Benjamin James.
Let them rest for another 250 years.
Oh my gosh.
Kidding.
You would wake your mama up.
I mean, unless she had ingredients to make stuffed shells.
So damn, you heard it here first, folks. Ben's mama's only good for cooking. Damn.
No, oh God, yeah, that does sound terrible. I mean, that's all she's really been allowed to do in her life, which is really sad.
Damn, we getting in the cut with it now. That's all right.
I mean, she's done with it. Yeah, I don't know.
We might need somebody to forage and cook.
Well, they don't need to forage and cook. Everything is provided. Also, you know what I thought was so cool? All right. One of the best parts of this book is that before they get to Earth, and the other books, spoiler alert, take place not on the ship, most of them. So the ship is a living ship.
I love that.
Right?
Venti, same vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. They have, the living ships. And that, I love that idea. But also parts of the ship can only sort of recycle or connect with other parts. So the Oankali are broken up with different factions, and different factions have different responsibilities. But if you're on one part of the ship, you might not be able to like recycle on a different part. For example, they're able to like make bananas and oranges. And so Lilith eats an orange on one part of the ship. She goes to the other side of the ship, and then she tries to like recycle that orange peel on the other side of the ship. But that
and
ship, she can't, right?
She can't dump it to crumpet over there.
Yeah. So it's just a very, like those little details makes you realize how, if you have a liver, you can't take your liver and put it where your knee would be, right? Like different
Octavia
parts
Butler is a genius.
Yeah, those like little details really ground you into the reality of the story because, a living ship, tentacle sex, it all sounds like super bizarre, but she grounds it in this like realistic language. And some people don't like her prose style. It's a little like, maybe, I don't know. It's different. And so she has a very particular way of describing things. There's a unique style to her.
I love it because she can also make you, like, with her words, she can almost convince you of anything. Mm-hmm. Like, I've felt sympathy for the humans in this story. I've felt sympathy for the Oankali in this story. I can really put myself in the position of not vilifying the Oankali. And even you just caught me doing that. It's kind of like the show You, right? It's like, y'all are doing a really good job because y'all are making me want to be with Penn Badgley right now. And he is a serial killer. Like, why am I feeling sympathy for him in this moment? And they trick you into doing that. And I feel like her writing style does that in a really poetic way.
Yeah. The Oankali they're not, there ain't shit. Like, there's some serious problems with them.
It's like if somebody's nicely capturing me, that doesn't still mean they're not capturing me.
Yeah. And they like destroy all of the human ruins. Like they're like, we're just going to restart everything.
It's like Republicans, you're going to jail. Democrats, I see you, I hear you, you're going to jail. It's like
there's elements of both the Democratic and Republican Party that are both very insidious. And
well, I want to do the exercise from earlier.
Oh, yeah. Who would you wake up first from your family?
Who do you think I would do first?
Obviously, your mother.
No, I actually think I would wake my sister up first.
Maybe I was going to your mom or Alicia. Your father would be last.
I think I would wake my brother up last.
Oh, really?
Because he would be the most violent towards the aliens.
You think so?
Whereas my dad is just an older version of him.
Yeah, they'd be like, all right, as long as they got, Sanford and Sons, we're good to go. You have some
Not
TV up
coming
here.
from my dad. Oh my God! They're like, let's just give him a lime reader. He'll go quietly.
They have. But
it's so funny because even today on the phone, I called my mom and talked to her for a long time, and we were just talking about somebody who got really belligerent, drunk. It wasn't you. I think the conversation started with you, but we were talking about somebody else, and she was like, hey, you ain't never seen your daddy get sloppy drunk. I was like, Hello? Am I talking to the right bitch? Like, I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I mean, you've never seen your father slur his words and things like that. I'm like, yeah, but are you with us right now? You good? Because I've definitely seen him turn the fuck up. So, yeah, I checked her on that. But I definitely think I would wake my brother up very last. Because my brother would be Peter. He would get his ass fucking killed trying to fight the Oankali. Right. Not believing anything we're saying. He would be just incredibly combative no matter what we said.
Yeah, and slight like plot point where the Oankali have basically this poke where they can like poke you and immediately kill you.
Mm-hmm. It's like a sting. It's like some Thanos shit, but it's a stinger.
Yeah.
Right? You like how I made those connect?
Yeah, it's somewhat.
Thanos?
How would it be Thanos?
Can't he like snap and make your shit disintegrate or some shit?
Well, you need to watch that movie because no.
That's not, so he can't just snap and things disintegrate. I thought that was like the whole thing.
He can do whatever he wants.
Okay, so why, so now
I would consider it more like the man with the golden gun. Like, it's more of like a golden gun.
Austin Powers.
No, okay, James Bond. Austin. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's like Austin Powers.
It is like
it's
Austin
like the
Powers.
parody.
Yes, it's the parody. Yeah.
Of course, I'm only referencing the parody of James Bond.
That's very funny, actually. Yeah, so I think like the Infinity Stones allow you to do whatever you want. So it's not like by it. And
I thought it was just the snap.
No. Like the snap is like a symbol. I mean, he could have done it with whatever. Thanos
a whistle,
is just
an ear scratch.
Thanos is like very dramatic and like, well, so
how would you do it then if you could do one thing?
I mean, if you have all the Infinity Stones, well, it
you
turns
would probably
out
pick up your nose to kill somebody. Motherfuckers would be dying all the time then.
What?
If picking up your nose meant killing somebody.
Picking my nose?
Like digging, yes.
Digging. That's.
I'm just trying to think about something you do frequently.
Oh my God, you're hilarious.
I know I am. Sorry, you can get back to the story.
No, I mean it's more of like they have this incredibly powerful weapon that's part of their biological body in which they have no control over unless you're a Uloi, which is this third gender.
Well, but they're very, I'm falling into the Penn Badgley thing. Like, they're very aware of that. Like, they'll tell you, like, they're very honest.
Right.
And
they can't lie.
We have the power to fuck you up. So
Yeah.
please remain calm. Like they say it like that. So I catch myself being like, well, at least they told you, but y'all still don't want to listen. Peter and Kurt are the two sort of like bravado machismo men who are like, no, we can escape from here and we can get out of here and do this on their own. And Lilith is like
we're literally
this is a ship.
Ship.
And it kind of reminds me, like, everything that they're creating. So the Oankali have essentially created like sort of a simulation of Earth that's very tropical. It kind of reminded me of like the Hunger Games, the second movie. It's like this is this island has been created. It has a force field. Or Annihilation. It's like this is all completely made up, but these brutish humans are like, no, it's not. Like, look, that's grass over there. And she's like, I'm telling you, this is not real. This is completely made up, and everything that you're saying the Oankali can hear, but go ahead, be Boosie badass or whatever. So then obviously what happens, shit goes south, and Lilith is sort of forced to take the alien side, because she's like, y'all are out here killing and hurting and stealing, and you're not gonna win this fight. And then at the end of the story, we already got spoiler alert, we find out that Lilith, Brenda's got a baby.
Yeah.
Lilith is carrying one of the, mutated Oankali human babies, and she's not super happy about that.
Yeah.
And she can't abort.
And that follows,
this is happening.
Yeah, that follows that baby story in the future. So we sort of see the growth of that baby. I think plot-wise, the story moves really slow, but it really builds it up. Like Octavia Butler was planning on this being a series, right? And so it's very intentionally, plotted out. And there's so much to say about Octavia Butler, but pretty recently her papers became accessible, and she saved everything, right? Like everything. So you can go through and sort of look at all her notes and read like different additions to this. And I've talked to some scholars who've gone back and like looked at, different drafts of this as well. And so there's just, so much research going on in these books. And it's great that this is happening, because she is definitely the mother of science fiction, but also becoming an icon. She's reached icon status in the realm of like, William Gibson or, Isaac Asimov, where people are reading Octavia Butler when they're not even science fiction nerds.
Yeah. Or like Lovecraft.
Or Lovecraft as well, like this mythic person who has sort of embedded itself into pop culture.
Yeah,
that's
I
where
love
Octavia
to see her
is.
coming into pop culture. I know we had a long time, when we were discussing baby names, Octavia was definitely in the running.
Yeah.
For a hot minute there. So I'm super grateful to you for introducing me to Octavia Butler. It's a shame that it took this long, or that we have to like sign up for classes to get to know, like elective, like specific classes to get to know who she is. But I'm glad we've arrived here now, and I might just trust you to homeschool our baby.
Yeah, we'll
in the
see.
future.
We'll see.
If this is on the curriculum, I need to look over your syllabus at the top of the year. What happens if I ever want to argue with a grade with you? That's just gonna be us arguing.
Well, no, I mean we have to talk about actually the purpose of grades, and grades are actually quite purposeless. They're the point of a grade, unless it is specific, rubric aligned to a very specific standard. Like they can't be debated, and there's a huge
I get you.
Huge debate, and the debate in which it's leaning to this idea that like classwork or homework should not be graded, because that person is practicing on a skill, and the only things that should be graded are quizzes, tests, and
but what happens if they're not even practicing?
Well, the idea is that the research shows that kids will practice if they feel successful at something, or if they're learning something. If they know what they're supposed to be practicing, how they should be practicing, most kids will do that. And yeah.
But
So
sometimes
you follow
kids
the
just don't
research.
want to practice at all.
Right.
Even
And then
they're
you
going to be successful or not.
Right. So then you have that child take a break and then come back to it. This is a case of in Dawn, in Lilith's Brood, where she's woken up, she's not responding well, and then she's put back to sleep for another 100 years or whatever. So sometimes you just have to make sure that
and drug your children and wake them up in 100 years.
And drug them.
Maybe that'll teach
them up in 100 years, and then they might be ready to learn.
Well, if drugging and waking up in 100 years is your strategy, maybe we will rethink that. I do want our child to be socialized, though. That's my only draw
I was
with this thing.
socialized. Look, K through 10th.
Boy, stop.
I am one of the most socialized person here. I am fucking doing great.
You don't even have social media.
I am fucking
People
doing
know
great.
you because of me.
Okay.
Nobody knew you until you knew me. And with that being said, Ben, why don't you warp up the show?
Yes. Read this book.
Okay, how about we start
in conclusion, Octavia Butler is the shit. This is great winter reading. Get the series. You can buy this compendium set called Lilith's Brood. It's absolutely fantastic. You might see it as like the Xenogenesis trilogy. And so there's lots of different ways you can buy this book. So yeah, definitely go ahead and check it the fuck out.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sci-Fi Sigh Podcast. Up next, we're finishing Lilith's Brood by Octavia Butler. So the second book of the series is called Adulthood Rights. So if you are reading with us, be sure to read Adulthood Rights, and we will see y'all next week for the show. Ew. Bye, y'all.